Hello and welcome to New Play Day on Shakesyear! Hooray! Today we are digging into The Merry Wives of Windsor, which probably has the fewest monologues in it of any of the plays that we've done so far. And today we get to kick things off hearing from Mistress Page in Act 2, Scene 1. Yes, you heard that correctly. Act 2, Scene 1 is the first time in this play that we have a character have 12 or more lines of uninterrupted text, which is maybe interesting in how it sets up the rhythm of the play. This is a comedy. This is very much a comedy. It borders on farce. It's it's up there with the comedy errors in terms of the, just like the silly, crazy stuff that happens and mistaken identities and misplaced stuff and all these sorts of things. So maybe having shorter lines and more rapid fire dialogue, and a lot of it is in prose as well, as opposed to being in verse, which is generally an indicator of persons of lower status. So this is a play that's kind of just about the clowns and what happens with the clowns. I mean, an entrance or an exit from one room is always an entrance to somewhere else, which is the premise for Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. I'm wondering if something like that was sort of what fed this, because Merry Wives of Windsor stars Falstaff, who you might remember from Henry IV Parts 1 and 2. He was Hal's friend in that particular play. And this is the same Falstaff, a physically imposing large man who likes to drink a lot, and he hangs out with Bardolph and Nym and Pistol and all that, so there's a lot of similar characters. And this play was written after the Henry IVs and maybe even after Henry V. So this could be like what happens to Falstaff once he's fallen out of Henry V's graces, that kind of a thing. I'm not exactly sure, but it is kind of the play about the clowns and what the clowns do. But anyway, we're already so far. This is going to be a long one, because we have to catch you up on everything that happens in Act 1 before we can even get to today's monologue. So get ready. Act 1, Scene 1 starts out with Justice Shallow, who's a justice of the peace, and his nephew named Slender, and Sir Hugh Evans, who is a parson, and they're complaining about Falstaff. None of them like Falstaff, and we'll find out why. But then Evans shifts the conversation to start talking about Anne Page, because he thinks that Slender should marry Anne Page. And it just so happens that they're outside the Page's house, so they're like, hey, let's talk to Master Page now and see if we can get this whole courtship thing going on. So they knock on the door, and Page comes out, and there's some small talk, but then Falstaff and Bardolph and Nym and Pistol come out, because they were already at the Page's house, so we're not exactly sure why. But sort of a verbal sparring match ensues between Shallow, Slender, and Evans and Falstaff, because Falstaff has killed deer that he's not supposed to. I think they're Shallow's deer. He's killed some of Shallow's deer. And also because Nym is a pickpocket who has picked Slender's pocket. So there's all this going on. But then Anne Page comes out, and she's like carrying wine, and her dad's like, no, take the wine in for dinner. And everybody's like, whoa, that's Anne Page. And then Mr. Page invites everybody in to dinner, and they all go in except for Slender, Shallow, and Evans. And Shallow and Evans start to try to convince Slender that he should marry Anne Page. And they're like, don't you have any love for her? And he's like, oh, I don't have love for her because I don't actually know her. We've never talked. But if you tell me that I have to marry her, maybe being married to her, I'll get to know her, and then I'll come to love her. So if you say that I have to marry her, then I will, and that's fine. And then Anne Page comes out to get them to come into dinner, and Shallow and Evans go into dinner, but Slender doesn't want to go in because he doesn't know how to talk to Anne Page. So he's like, nope, I'm not hungry. I'll just stay out here. And she's like, I can't go back inside to dinner until all three of you have come in, so I need you to come in. He's like, nope, I don't need to eat anything. I'm all good. And she's like, no, but really, please, can you come inside? Until finally Mr. Page comes out, and he kind of shames Slender into going inside, so they all go into dinner, and that's Act 1, Scene 1. And I don't have to use quotes, because he actually did scene delineations in this play. Huzzah! Act 1, Scene 2 is really short. It's like 3 lines long. And it's Evans telling Slender's servant Simple to go find Mistress Quickly, who's like Anne Page's best friend, because he wants Mistress Quickly to put in a good word with Anne Page on behalf of Slender. So Evans tells Simple to go find Mistress Quickly, to have Mistress Quickly speak well about Slender to Anne Page. And that's Act 1, Scene 2. Act 1, Scene 3, we're in a bar with Falstaff and his guys, and he's complaining that he doesn't have enough money to pay all of them anymore, so he's going to have to get rid of some of his followers. So he's like, hey, Bardolph, go be a bartender. And Bardolph is like, sweet, sounds like fun. So he's basically gone. And then Falstaff tells Pistol and Nym that his plot to get money is he's going to sleep with Mistress Ford and with Mistress Page, because both of them are in charge of the money for their households. And so he figures if he's sleeping with them, then he can get their money. And he's like, I've got these 2 letters. I've got a letter to Mistress Ford and I've got a letter to Mistress Page, and I want you, Pistol and Nym, to deliver these letters so that I can go and woo them and get all this money. And Pistol and Nym are like, nope. So Falstaff calls over another guy, Robin, and is like, hey, Robin, we got to go deliver some letters. So Falstaff and Robin leave to deliver these letters. And Pistol and Nym are like, you know, it'd be really fun if we told Mistress Page and Mistress Ford that he's planning to do this, so that they're like aware in advance and they can prepare accordingly. That sounds like fun. Let's go do that. So Pistol and Nym go to do that. And that's Act 1, Scene 3. So now Act 1, Scene 4, we're at Dr. Caius's house, which is where Mistress Quickly works. She's like the housekeeper, maid, cook, Jill of all trades in Dr. Caius's house. And Simple has arrived. And Mistress Quickly is like, wait, so who's Slender? Is Slender this guy, that guy? And when she finally figures out who Slender is, she's like, yeah, I guess he could do worse, or Anne Page could do worse, so sure, I'll put in a good word on behalf of Slender I'll put in a good word on behalf of Slender to Anne Page. But then Jack Ruby, who's another guy who's just kind of hanging out there, says that Dr. Caius is just about home. So Mistress Quickly shoves Simple in a closet because he's not supposed to be there. And Dr. Caius comes in, and of course, he needs some stuff that's in the closet. So then there's a big to-do of, I need this thing. And she's like, no, I'll get it for you. And there can be a lot of physical comedy involved here in preventing Caius from getting stuff from the closet himself, where Simple is hiding because Simple is not supposed to be there. But then finally, Dr. Caius makes it to the closet before Mistress Quickly can get there, and he gets to the closet, he opens it, and he finds Simple in there, and he's furious. And the others, Mistress Quickly and Jack Ruby, are like, no, but he came from Parson Evans. And Dr. Caius is like, well, why did you come from Evans? And Simple is maybe a little simple. He's like stammering and stammering. Caius is like, why are you here? Why are you here? And he's like, because he finally gets out that he is there to ask Mistress Quickly to put in a good word with Anne Page. Dr. Caius takes this to mean that Parson Evans, is trying to court Anne Page, which pisses him off because Caius himself wants to court Anne Page. So everybody's all about Anne Page. What's fascinating about Anne Page is she has like 5 lines in the whole play. Anyway, so Caius tells Simple to take a message back to Evans that Caius is challenging Evans to a duel for Anne Page. So Simple goes off, and then Caius and Jack Ruby leave to go do that. And then Fenton shows up, who's another guy who's in love with Anne Page. And he's talking to Mistress Quickly. He's like, do I need to follow up? Is there anything else that she needs? Like, how's my suit doing? And Mistress Quickly is like, yeah, no, I know her mind better than anybody else does. And she loves you. And Fenton's like, okay, cool. And he leaves. And Mistress Quickly is like, oh, poor boy. She doesn't love him either. And that's the end of Act 1, Scene 4, and the end of all of Act 1, to be honest. So what we've got is we have everybody in love with Anne Page. Anne Page may or may not be in love with Fenton. Caius and Evans might have to get into it, even though Evans isn't wooing Anne Page. Evans wanted Simple to try to get a good word in for Slender wooing Anne Page. Slender really doesn't want anything to do with this. And meanwhile, Falstaff is going to try to sleep with both Mrs. Page and Mrs. Ford to try to get some of their money because he can't afford to have followers anymore. So now in Act 2, we kick off Act 2, Scene 1 with Mistress Page, who has just received the letter from Falstaff. And she says, what? have escaped love letters in the holiday time of my beauty? And am I now subject for them? Let me see. Ask me no reason why I love you. For though love use reason for his precision, he admits him not for his counselor. You are not young. No more am I. Go to then, there's sympathy. You are merry, so am I. Ha ha, then there's more sympathy. You love sack, and so do I. Would you desire better sympathy? Let it suffice thee, Mistress Page, at the least, if the love of soldier can suffice, that I love thee. I will not say, pity me, 'tis not a soldier-like phrase, but I say, love me, by me, thine own true knight, by day or night, or any kind of light, with all his might, for thee to fight, John Falstaff. What a Herod of jury is this? Oh, wicked, wicked world, one that is well nigh worn to pieces with age to show himself a young gallant? What an unweighed behavior hath this Flemish drunkard picked with the devil's name out of my conversation, that he dares in this manner assay me. Why, he hath not been thrice in my company? What should I say to him? I was then frugal of my mirth, heaven forgive me, while I'll exhibit a bill in the Parliament for the putting down of men. How shall I be revenged on him? For revenged I will be, as sure as his guts are made of puddings. So, the letter. Oh, the letter. She starts it out and she's like, what, when I was young and pretty, I never got a single love letter, and now I'm getting one? This is interesting. So she reads it, and it's very poorly written. He's like, so neither of us is young, but we're both happy people, and we like to drink, so therefore we should be together. And he signs off with all these crazy rhymes and that sort of thing. And she's like, what is this? This letter makes no sense, and I've met him like 3 times, and he's way too old to be writing this kind of stuff. And what in our like 4 words that we've ever exchanged to each other makes him think that he can come and try to woo me with something like this? Like, what? She's like, I have to get back at him for something. I mean, maybe he thought at dinner that I was being particularly nice to him, but I'm also the sort of person that's gonna like sign a petition to like not have somebody killed, so I didn't think that I was being particularly nice. So basically what it is the way that she was behaving at dinner, he completely misconstrued. Because that's not ever a thing that happens where a woman is being kind and a man thinks that she's flirting with him. But anyway, that's what happened. He writes this terrible letter. She realizes it's a terrible letter, and she feels like she needs to get some sort of revenge on him for this terrible letter. And fortunately, at that moment, Mistress Ford, who is her very dear friend, enters, and we're going to get to hear more about their conversation tomorrow. We made it. We're in Act 2 after one day. Hang on. It's going to be a bumpy ride. I'll see you tomorrow for more. Mwah.